Knows Best.
Hi friends, and welcome back to Brenna Knows Best. I'm your host, Brenna Berg. Hi, how are you guys? Happy Monday. Happy Monday, everybody. Okay, let's get into it. This week, I tried to find some stories that were maybe a little bit more relatable. Oh, and I wanted to say, if you guys also love this, or you come across a story or something, or you want to search, not only can you send me your own stories, but if you see one online or go on Reddit yourself and find a good story that you want me to talk about, send it. Because I was actually thinking, and I'm learning how to use Reddit itself. Like, you can search things in the group, and I tried to find like mother-in-law, or now I was thinking about like friendship ones, like bachelorette, like those types of situations, because we've all been in crazy situations like that, like things that we all kind of like, oh, that's really bad. So let's get into it. This week's the topics are, or the titles are, me, 29 female, am thinking to end my relationship with my boyfriend, 34 male, because of lack of ambition from my partner. That is relatable as fuck. Okay, number 2, my husband, 39 male, has thrown me, 27 female, under the bus to his family with his silence and complete lack of a spine. How do I salvage this? And lastly, my boyfriend, 30 male, has a close female friend, 34 female, who blatantly dislikes me, 29 female, and makes no secret of it. I've reached a stage where it's her, me. How can I confront my boyfriend? I love all of these. I'm excited to give my opinion. It's so funny because before this podcast, or honestly before I started posting online, I would never consider myself like an opinionated person. Well, that's not true. I think I didn't voice it as much because in my real life, when like people come to me or I hear of things, like I am a believer in not everybody needs to know or hear your opinion. I think too many people always give their opinion, and it's like most of the time not necessary. So I love that here I can tell you guys like what I really think and feel. I guess with relationships it's different. Like when my friends come to me, I'm ready to give them the freaking lowdown on my thoughts and feelings nicely. Like if my friend were dating a loser, I would, give her my thoughts, but like in a good way. Here, these people I don't know. Even if I did know them, like I can just like speak freely here. So let's get into the first one. I, 29 female, have been with my boyfriend, 34 male, for 4 years. We've been through a lot together, and while I love him, I've noticed that his childhood trauma and past experiences, like a previous marriage, seem to affect our relationship. I feel like these things have made him more emotionally immature in some ways. Here's the current issue. We recently bought an apartment together. While we're splitting the cost 50-50, I handled almost everything related to the purchase, dealing with the broker, the bank, and all of the paperwork. On top of that, I earn less than him, but I do the majority of the cooking and the cleaning at home. He's a senior developer and has been at the same company for over 10 years, but he earns way below market value. I've encouraged him to look for a better paying job, but he always has excuses, like being afraid of interviews, saying that the market is bad, or even claiming he's worthless and can't do better. Despite not making more money, he works fewer hours, giving him more free time. But instead of using that time productively, he spends it playing video games. Yikes. Meanwhile, I've worked hard to get where I am in my career. I recently got a 60% raise at my company. Wait, 60% raise. How is that even possible? Okay, props to this girl. I recently got a 60% raise at my company because I push myself and stay motivated. It's frustrating to see him settle for less and avoid growth when I'm constantly striving for more. The bigger problem is that he wants us to have a child, believing it will fix his lack of motivation. Oy. Yikes, 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 yikes. But I don't want to have a child with someone who makes excuses for everything and isn't taking responsibility for his own growth. When I brought up how maternity leave would mean losing 40% of my income, he still insisted that I need to pay 50% of the rent and expenses. That mindset doesn't sit right with me. I'm feeling really stuck and unsure of how to handle this situation. I love him, but I'm starting to question whether our goals and values align. How do I address this? And is there even a way to move forward together? In my opinion, no. Not that there isn't a way. Can you always pave a way? Yes, but this is a man, number one, that you should not have a child with, point blank, period. And here is the thing, like, it all comes down to compatibility. And I feel like I've dealt with this problem in the past. For example, I had a boyfriend in college, and even my previous boyfriend, I felt like I was always kind of holding their hand and pulling them along the way, which is fine until 10 years later when you have your own shit going on and you're still hand holding your 34. Is he 34-year-old boyfriend? And also, I get it, you've been together for 4 years, but like, if this is already an issue, ambition and drive is just something that I think a person has or doesn't. And not everybody has to have it. Like, here's the thing, I talk about this all the time. For example, my father. Okay, this man has worked at the same exact job since I was a little kid. And here's the thing, my dad was a single father. Okay, so he had to make it work and he just needed stability. But my dad is not one of those men who strives to make more money or to do more, or like, and not to say he isn't ambitious, but like, he's just not that kind of guy. He has hobbies, he has racing cars, he has bowling, but like, he has a regular old 9-to-5 that he's had for forever. It's an entry-level job. I mean, he's obviously gotten promotions and things, which is amazing. And again, this is like, my dad works like also 60 plus hours a week. Like, he's a hard worker, but that to me is still different than having ambition and drive. Okay, maybe my definition is different here, but I understand what she's saying, like the lack of wanting to not even just get market rate for the job that you have. Like, she said that he's a senior developer and has been at the same company for over 10 years, but he earns way below market value. Like, he's complacent, he's comfortable, which again, these aren't bad qualities, but you need to find somebody that you align with. Like, for example, somebody like him, I would never vibe with. Like, that would just not work for me. But there are tons of other people, and again, I'm not saying this is a bad thing, that just like stability. They don't dream of making tons and tons of money. Like, again, my father, I'm just using him as an example because he's like the closest one to me that I know. For example, when my dad came to visit me and he came over to dinner at the nanny family's house, the family that I used to nanny for, because nanny dad is like the most driven. Well, same with my fiance. Like, Carter is a very ambitious, very like goal oriented, also wants to make a lot of money. Like, that is part of his priorities. Like, again, not right or wrong. We all just have these different innate qualities about us. And my dad and like nanny dad, or even Carter, like, they're just different in that way. Like, my dad loves his simple life where he makes his steady paycheck, and that's that. And so again, neither of these are right or wrong. They're just these kinds of people. And in my opinion, like, when couples, especially in marriage, obviously, you know, they talk about resentment. You start resenting your partner for these things. I think this is how it starts. It's these red flags or compatibility issues that we overlook in the dating stages because we love the person, but then she is going to grow more and more resentful. And let me also touch on the fact that he said having a child will make him more motivated. Absolutely not. And I think a lot of people fall into this, or like some girls, they have these issues and maybe it's not the ambition goal conversation, but they're like, oh, he doesn't do this, but like marriage, like if he's more committed, he'll be better. Or once we have a kid, no, and no, especially like her, she's been with this man for 4 years. You know, that man is not going to change from who he is right now with a child involved. It is only going to amplify those things. He might step up a tiny bit more because caring for a child, that's 150% more effort than what you're doing right now. But I highly suggest that you do not settle for a man just because you love him. If this is a big thing, like if you can't even see eye to eye on the ambition and like wanting more for yourselves, like it just sounds like she wants more for herself and like, yes, wants kids and, you know, wants a house in the future. But like if the man you are with is not actively showing he will be able to do those things now or willing, it's not that he's not able. He's able. It's just not who he is, which again does not make him a bad person. There are just different kinds of people and we need to find those that we're compatible with. There are plenty of women and men who just aren't like that. Like my father, like I was explaining, like he doesn't strive for money and like more and this and that. He likes stable. He likes just going to work and then clocking out at the end of the day. That is who he is to his core. So like somebody like this woman would not be a good match for my dad. Whereas somebody like Nanny Dad or Carter, who is very ambitious and wants more and is going to get the highest paying job and does this, and that is the type of guy that she needs. I also really think that women like this, because I would consider myself ambitious, and I also then feel these girls especially need a man who are even more go-getters, more ambitious, because when you are a powerful woman like that, or you are smart and you are successful and you achieve all of the things and move up and get the promotions, women in that caliber need a really, really strong man. Like you just start to look down on a man. And again, this is how I felt in my relationships. Like some women take on the mother role, but others you just start to, again, the resentment, you start to look down. It's like, I'm doing this, like I've achieved this for myself, and it's not a competition. And with the love of your life, you wouldn't feel that way with the person you're supposed to be with, which is again why I think this is just the wrong person for her. But you start to view them as like, not less than, because that's terrible, but kind of. It's like, what are you doing? Oh, in your off time. So you're telling me you don't work 40 hours a week, and then in the time that you're off, you're playing video games? And this is another super hot take, and I know that people get really up in arms about this, but I just believe that a man who is over the age of college that is just playing video games, and I understand it's a hobby, I go back and forth because I do understand the conversation of like, well, women read. So like, what's the difference if I'm reading and he's playing games? And I would agree with that. But the problem is, I think the men that play video games into adulthood, it's not just a quick game. It's not just like 1 20-minute game. It's like hours. And so if it is that way, then that's fine. Or you're like my brother, for example, he plays games, but he's streaming. He's like trying to make money from it. He's editing, he's uploading on YouTube. Like that I can understand. Like that is a business. That is something that's going to help his family and his wife and his kids if he can make money doing that. But like if you are just sitting there and neglecting all of your household responsibilities while your wife is like a boss ass bitch and you are just sitting and playing video games for hours and hours and hours, like that's where I have an issue. And that's how I think most men are. Maybe not all. Okay, if you have a boyfriend out there who's able to just like go play for a quick second. But again, I guess I'm just a judgmental bitch, but like reading is good for you. I don't think that playing video games is good for you. So I would even argue like, could they find a better hobby? I don't know. And maybe I just have like a negative connotation to video games because most of the men I've seen, you guys, my ex-boyfriend owned a home and he had people rent from him. One was his brother, and it would interchange because we dated for 2 years, but he got this roommate who was like a 28-year-old who, again, you can live your life, but his job was being a caddy at the golf course. Okay, which is fine. He was living off of his parents' money. Like he didn't need a job, but I'm not shitting you. He would come home, his girlfriend would come over and she would sit and watch him play video games non-stop. hours and hours and hours, and she would just sit there, and I would like see her and I'm like, hi, and I couldn't really connect with her because I'm like, this is your boyfriend, this 28-year-old man who plays video games nonstop. I'm sorry, like that is my most recent connection to video games, and that I just like cannot understand. And I talked to my boyfriend about this, and he's like, yes, video games are fun. Like if we had a video game console, like I would get wrapped up in it, and that's why I don't have it. Like I get it. And again, if you go over to a friend's house, there are times and places for it, but I also know a couple who is in their early 30s who have children, and the husband, because he's always been a video gamer, he plays video games into the night, and she is essentially a single mom doing all of the things. And I'm like, again, the video games are necessarily the problem, but that's why I oftentimes associate the two, because it's often that the men who all they do is play video games don't help out around the house. If you help out around the house, you're pulling your weight, you're doing all the things, you're taking care of the kids. And at the end of the day, when the kids are in bed and you helped your wife and you did this, then you want to play video games. I would argue that you should be connecting with your partner, or just like maybe going to bed, depending on if you have children. It's probably like 10 p.m. by the time that the kids are in bed, or depending on the ages. I'm speaking specifically of these people, but like that is a different conversation. But I feel like it's not that. And that's why when I see women like in their mid-20s, when you don't have responsibilities and it's a free time, is doing this for hours and hours and hours, when does that stop? Because again, I think a lot of women would be like, well, of course, when we get married or have kids, he'll stop playing video games. Why would he? He's done this. Again, I'm talking about a very specific type of person who does it a lot and also is just not a very good partner. Like, why would that change? Because you think in your head, surely I'm a mother. Like if I have children, I would do anything to take care of the kids and help out around the house. But like he didn't do that before. Why would he do that now? You know what I mean? All in all, I think this is a compatibility issue. I don't want to demonize people who play video games, even though that's exactly what I just did. I don't want to demonize also people that like just want a stable job and don't make the most. That's fine. I don't give a shit. People are who they are, and that's fine. And like my dad, again, I'm going to pull him up. He's lived an incredible life, and he is like one of the most genuinely happy people ever. And he found a partner that works for him. Right? And that's it. You just have to find somebody that you align with. But these two, I think, are just completely not aligned, and it's not going to get better. If after 4 years you're coming on the internet and asking this question, I think you know that you need to break up with him, which it's hard after 4 years, but you know deep down that this is going to become a problem. It already is a problem. So number one, I would say break up. And number two, especially do not have a child with this person. And if you are out there thinking that a child is going to fix a problem, a child is going to amplify that problem. I'm telling you right now, a child is not going to fix anything. A child is going to be 200% more work than you're already doing in the house, in life. It's going to create its own set of issues. So if you are already having so many issues prior to a child, do not have a child with that partner. Next. Okay, I think this next one is juicy, so I'm really excited to get into it. This one is titled, My husband, 39 male, has thrown me, 27 female, under the bus to his family with his silence and complete lack of spine. How do I salvage this? My husband, Owen, and I have been trying for a baby for years with no luck. I would be happy to adopt, but Owen's family is against it and has influenced my husband to also be against it. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. I feel like we go over this every week, but if your boyfriend or husband is so influenced by his family, okay, or his friends, he is a bitch. Let's keep going because I feel like it's going to get way worse. After our second year of trying, I begged my husband to go with me to get a checkup to see if either of us or both of us is infertile. He was strongly opposed to this as all the men in his family are extremely fertile, but eventually gave in, and as it turns out, his sperm count is extremely low. He was heartbroken, as was I, and we both got therapy. I'm so fucking sorry. He wouldn't even go and get tested at first. He said his family is fertile. That's crazy. If you, honest to God, wanted a child and you had been having problems for I don't even care how long, and you didn't so much as get a check, like what would oppose you from going to get checked out? This man is a bitch. I already know it and I already hate him. But I'm glad that he finally went, and I'm also glad that they went to therapy. After a year of no longer trying, I got pregnant but lost the baby and we were devastated. Owen blamed himself and proposed that we start the process of getting into a family planning center for a sperm donor, which I agreed to. He asked me that we not tell either of our families about this or our friends, and I agreed because I would never want to emasculate him. With the help of our donor, I was able to successfully become pregnant, and we had our little girl last year. She is healthy and progressing amazingly, and I thank God for her every day. I kept my promise and never told anyone. However, Owen is struggling with connecting with our little girl. Oi, 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 oi. Well, number one, not that I think he should have blamed himself. Like, getting pregnant, losing a baby, that's nobody's fault. That is nobody's fault. I can't even imagine what it's like to go through. So that's horrible. But I am glad that he stepped up and said, let's get a sperm donor, and was okay with that, because it's the right thing to do. It's not even the man thing to do. It's like, okay, that's fine. Like, this isn't working. Again, it's nobody's fault. Oh, that makes me so sad, because I don't know what that's like for him. I know I just called him a bitch because, to my defense, he was acting like a bitch. But now, like, this struggle is so hard. And also, the fact that he didn't want to tell family and friends, that's a super personal thing. And that is between you and your spouse. So, like, if they agreed on that, that's fine. But struggling to connect with the little girl, that's your child. Like, again, this is a super individual conversation, and we all have different thoughts on, like, to me, it's like, that's your child. You know what I mean? Like, but somebody not being able to connect or having a mental block there, like, as a man, and then using a sperm donor, I have no idea what that would be like. So I can't say one thing or the other. It just makes me really sad, the struggle that they went through. But then also, like, you are blessed with this beautiful baby girl, and then, you know, he struggles to connect. Okay, let's keep going. Here's where the trouble begins. Last month, he went out of town with his brothers for their friend's bachelor party. While on the trip, Owen told his brothers about our infertility issues and that our baby wasn't biologically his. One of his brothers must have told his wife, who then told my husband's mother. I don't know why she would tell my husband's mother, except that she has never liked me. Their mother then came to our house and called me a lying whore and tried to get my husband to leave with her. Oh my God. He just stood there silent. I told her that it was Owen's decision not to tell anyone, and she asked him if that was true, and again, he was silent, which led to his mother still thinking that I'm the liar. She then went to our nursery and started taking everything she'd ever given us for the baby back. I told her I didn't care about it, and I made more than enough money to buy everything she gave us myself in better quality. This set her off, and she called my baby a filthy bastard. After that, I did something I know was harsh, but I still believe she deserved it. I physically pushed her out the door. I didn't hit her, but I did put my hands on her shoulders, pushing her out the door, and threw all of her shitty things out with her. Oh my gosh, I would have done the same thing. That's crazy. Number one, calling you a lying whore. Number two, calling your child a filthy bastard. Oh my God, I would have done much worse. After spirits had calmed down, I realized that my husband had said nothing when his mother was berating me, calling me a liar, and when she called our child a filthy bastard. So I asked him why he was silent, and he said that he wasn't raised to be disrespectful the way that I was, and that his mother hadn't said anything that wasn't true. Oh my gosh. I would be going feral. I would actually, obviously your husband sucks. Obviously your husband sucks and his mom sucks. You weren't raised to be disrespectful the way that she was, but your mother acted that way? Yeah, fucking right. Oh my God. He said that she was just acting out of hurt and that we should let it go and wait for his mother to forgive us. I told him that I would never let it go, that his mother and anyone who agreed with her was not welcomed in our home, and that I don't need to be forgiven when I've done nothing wrong. He then said the house was his, and as the head of the family, it was his decision. I told him fine, but why did he allow her to call me a liar and a whore? Those things are not true. And our child, no child really, should be called a bastard. He just repeated he would not argue with his mother. This is the exact fucking problem that I have with people who don't understand that when you get into a relationship and you want to get married to that person, that is your new family. Your wife or your husband, your spouse, your partner, whatever that is to you, that is your person. That is your new family. Your family is still your family, but what the fuck do you mean you would not argue with your mother as she called your wife a lying whore? I'm so sorry. This man actually has no backbone, but he had to have been shitty from the get-go. Like, there had to have been writing on the wall that he was this way and that his mother was this way, which regardless, maybe there wasn't, which I find very hard to believe, but like, actually, what the fuck? Divorce. I'm sorry. Like, not only did you get disrespected by his mother, but also by him. Like, that is actually insane. And how people even act like this in the first place and would have this type of reaction in the first place is beyond me. I also 1000% agree with her that I would not allow that mom back into my home, or anybody that agrees with her 1000%. And the fact that he said he's the head of the family, that also gives me the ick. And oh my gosh, I'm 100% on her side. Like, that is actually insane. And I also wouldn't let that go. There are things that you can forgive and forget, or forgive and move on about, but not that. That is so insane. After that, I stopped speaking to him and started gathering up my daughter's things and purse and walked out the door with her. He tried to stop me and told me I couldn't take his daughter anywhere without him, and I lost the little bit of composure I had left. I told him she wasn't his daughter. He just proved that he didn't see her as his daughter when he'd allowed his mother to call her a filthy bastard and told him she wasn't his. He broke down into tears and begged me to come back inside, but at the time, I felt nothing. He looked pathetic to me. I mean, obviously, I would never wish this on any two people, and this whole situation is horrible, but good for her, because no kidding, I would have lost my goddamn mind. Okay, this is the last paragraph. I've taken my baby with me and gone back home to my parents and finally told my family the truth, which feels so good. They are completely in support of my decision and are not allowing my spineless husband anywhere near us, as he still refuses to apologize to me or set the record straight with his family. However, I told his sister-in-law that I was close to the truth, and she told the rest of his family. Half of his family is understanding while the other side is on his mother's side, but they are all mad at my husband. I need time to cool down, but I know eventually my husband and I need to figure our marriage out. One thing is for certain, I will not return to his house, in parentheses, until he apologizes to me and promises to protect me and his daughter fiercely. I want to see this in action, from starting with him telling his mother what she did was wrong and banning her from coming to see us until she asks for my forgiveness. We were also planning on having more children, as he wants a big family, but that is off the table as I don't believe he is ready, and we both need to get back into therapy. Oof, duh. Oh my gosh. I don't know if you come back from this, and I don't know how you be with a man who is so spineless. And here's the other thing. It's so ironic to me that he says it's his decision that his mom is allowed in the house and that he's the head of the house, but he also cannot stand up for his wife. Like, those two things, I do believe in most cases that two things can be true at once, but you cannot claim to be the head of the family and make the decisions, but not stand behind your wife 1000%, because that is crazy. What I would recommend is that you divorce, and I get it, children involved, that's horrible, but I don't even know, like, everything beyond this and after this is now so fucked. And if my husband disrespected me in that way, I could never look at him the same. And I could also never look at myself the same. And going back to somebody who literally couldn't stand up for you when, not even in a small instance, like, this is one of the biggest, most craziest things I've ever heard. Like, Carter would, number one, go to bat for me, even if his mother said that she doesn't like my toenail color. He'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, don't ever say that to her. Like, with the small things, let alone her calling you a lying whore and saying horrible things about your daughter, when number one, like, this was all his fault in the first place. He's the one that came to you and said, I don't want to tell people about this. Then he was the one who opened his big fat mouth and then let his mother come stomping into your house saying nasty things about you that, number one, aren't true, point blank period, in the first place. But especially when he was the one who didn't want to tell anybody, and he's not even trying to as much as clarify, I would have maybe slightly felt a little less bad for him if he at least spoke up just a hair and tried to defend you with the one small thing. But like, what the fuck? My other problem with this is, like, I cannot stand when people demand an apology, and I understand, so like, for her, she needs an apology, but like, the fact that he did not apologize immediately speaks volumes on his character and who he is and how he handles situations. Like, the fact that he did not in any of those moments say I'm sorry is the bigger problem. Like, what else in your life is going to happen that is hard? Like, I imagine it can't get worse than this. Like, that is actually batshit insane. But like, you now know that your husband does not have your back. He won't stand up for you. He won't even as much as apologize. How can you be with somebody like that? Okay, to wrap this up, here's the thing. I personally could not go back to that man. Like, there's just no way. To be the man of the house, you actually have to be a man. And if you so badly also want to be the head of the house, like, you protect your family. And that's like the perfect instance. And he couldn't even do that. And also, what does that look like for your daughter? Like, how is he going to protect her? And also, how is he going to show her what a good father and a good partner is? Like, when I think about having children, I don't even think about, like, I don't only think about how good of a father Carter is going to be, but also the love that he pours into me and our relationship and how we are showing our children what that's like. Like, that I think is more important, showing our children what a good and healthy love is and what caring for one another looks like. And that looks like standing up for your partner in the most, like, basic of instances. Do you know what I mean? Those are my thoughts on that. That's actually insane. I just know that every single family scenario after that, like, there's no way to have a good relationship with this woman again, and that's fine. I don't think people always need to have a relationship at all with their parents or with their mother-in-laws or father-in-laws. Like, there are boundaries, but then you and your partner need to get on the same page about that and have the same thoughts on it. Or like, if he wants a relationship with his mom because clearly he loves her so fucking much, that's fine if you're able to look past that, but that has nothing to do with you. Then he goes to see her on his own time. You create hard, firm boundaries, because I would never be able to be in the same room with that woman ever again. And you and your husband would just need to get on the same page of what that looks like, because that's crazy. But if that were my mother and she said something terrible like that to Carter, I would never speak to her again. Number one, I would stand up for him. Obviously, it's a little bit different, but it's the same. Like, then I would cut her off, because that's crazy. And that's how you should feel about the love of your life and your relationship and your marriage. Like, this isn't even like, even in a boyfriend girlfriend scenario, that would be absolutely insane. But like, this is your wife And your husband, I'm sorry, I think some people were not raised, and I don't know what the man's mom and dad situation looks like, but that's what I'm saying about, what's the word when you teach your children? Modeling. Like, obviously his parents didn't model a very good relationship growing up, because he would never have acted that way. Clearly he also might still be in love with his mom, and this is why you also have to look out for men that are in love with their moms, but also what that relationship looks like. And from the get-go, you knew that he was so affected by what they think and their opinions when he didn't want to adopt. It's one thing, like, somebody can have the preference to not adopt, but that should be your own thought. You know what I'm saying? Not that I'm saying I believe in that, but like, I'm fine with people having opinions, but is that your opinion or your family's or your friends? Some men with their friends are just as bad. Like, they're so influenced by what their friends think. Absolutely not. Okay, last but certainly not least, and this is one about a girl best friend, but they are in their late 20s, early 30s. So if this isn't relatable, I don't know what is. My boyfriend, 30 male, has a close female friend, 34 female, who blatantly dislikes me, 29 female, and makes no secret of it. I've reached a stage where it's her or me. How can I confront my boyfriend? I, 29 female, have been with my boyfriend, 30 male, for 3 years, and we share an apartment together. He has a female friend named Nell, 34 female, and they were friends for years before I came along. I had no issue with their closeness. I also have male friends and knew that I'd be a hypocrite to leap to judgments, but at this point, I feel I'm justified in thinking the way I do about her. The first time that I met her, it was extremely obvious that Nell didn't like me. She walked into the bar all excited to see my boyfriend before even noticing me. Her entire demeanor changed when she saw me. She shook my hand and dug her nails into my skin before ignoring me for the rest of the night. She even seemed upset at one point that I took the seat beside my boyfriend and quietly left halfway through the evening without saying goodbye. So it's safe to say that my first impression of her wasn't great, but I tried to reason with myself that not everyone gets along and I don't need to be friends with my boyfriend's friends. That is totally fair and valid and mature, but I will also say, when you are a woman and you have a gut instinct, and like, women are not subtle. She was clearly ignoring you, being weird. Like, it's not hard to get a gut instinct when somebody's acting weird. So I already side with the girl, because we've all been there. The excited to see your boyfriend, but then not being excited to see you. Like, if I were meeting my best friend Garrett's girlfriend, which I can't wait to meet her, what the fuck? I would go up to her and be like, cold shoulder. That's fucking weird behavior, and you know it. However, as time passed, it became really clear Nell's attitude towards me wasn't improving. She had a way of openly mocking me in front of groups of people, making side comments, or loudly joking about my voice or appearance. My boyfriend would stand there and say nothing. Oh God, another spineless asshole. And after the fact, when I asked him about it, he'd say he hadn't noticed. She'd also always make a show of hugging him hello and goodbye, and not me. She would mix that kind of stuff in with smiles and basic politeness, so it was tough to articulate exactly what she'd done. I felt very much like I was back in high school. From that point on, I basically decided that I don't need someone like that in my life, so I just stopped going to things that she was at. I haven't seen her in about a year. My boyfriend still sees her regularly, and they text often. I'm now at the stage where I fully believe they've either dated in the past or have something going on now. I've tried gently bringing this up, but he denies they ever dated and makes me feel like I'm being jealous and bitter by asking. I end up suppressing those feelings before something brings them up again. I've reached the end of my tether with it. Yeah, absolutely fucking not. And the fact that he, number one, claims to not notice, again, a spineless fucking asshole, like, regardless. And I mentioned mentioned this in the last episode. Like, if I brought something up to my partner, he would do anything to alleviate my weird feelings. If I told him that a girl was giving me a weird vibe, one of his friends, like, he would nip that in the butt immediately. This is why I also tread a very, very thin line with girl best friends. Like, there needs to be a point, and you guys are 30 and 29 years old. I just cannot understand the needing of a female friendship that tight knit when you have a girlfriend of 3 years that you live with. It's weird in my opinion, and I stand behind that. Okay, the last paragraph, and then this one also has an update. The final straw for me came the other day when my boyfriend left his phone open and I saw a text exchange between the two. Nell had sent him a heart emoji, and my boyfriend had written something about how he was thinking of her. I know I should have said something then and there, but I felt numb and decided to go to bed. Oh, fuck no. I'm starting the biggest fight of all time. If I saw that, nobody's sleeping tonight. I'm trying to work out how to handle this. Is it possible that nothing's going on here? It's something I've tried arguing in my head, but then something else pops up that makes me doubt it. Maybe friends do just send hearts and I'm making this up because I don't care for Nell. I don't want that to be the case. I'm basically at a point where I feel either he has to tell me the truth and restrict contact with Nell, or else I don't feel like I can maintain the relationship. I feel constantly disrespected and I want something to change, but don't know how to go about it. Any advice would be welcome. Here's the thing, you just have to bring it up. Like all of my pieces of advice, like obviously he doesn't know where you're at unless you tell him, and this is where it goes well or it doesn't. You tell him exactly how you feel. You tell him that from the get-go she's been weird. You don't like their relationship. You saw the messages. You don't even need to bring that up, which the messages are 100% weird. A red heart, and he said that he was thinking of her. Regardless if they have not had sex this entire time that you've been together, that to me is borderline cheating. That to me is not okay behavior. If Carter was telling a girl that he was thinking of her, deceased, not me, him, dead. I'm not kidding. Like, that is crazy. And it's so funny because I understand girls in a relationship. Like, it's so hard to see outside of it. And you're like, am I being crazy? You have your best friend tell you exactly this story that you just told us. Absolutely not. It's insane. Regardless, like, I don't care. I don't think that there needs to be a physical cheating barrier. I don't even think there needs to be like justification at all. If you feel weird about a friend within reason, like, again, I have these boundaries and I recommend any girl, like, I will not date a guy who is super close with a girl, who's texting her, who's going out with this person all of the time. Like, that to me is just like, when we talk about red flags and marrying somebody, like if you're 3 years into this relationship, similar to the last story, like when you guys were dating and you saw his relationship with his mother, that he couldn't stand up to her or like was a very influenced by his family's decisions. This where like he's very close with the female friend, like you cannot marry that man if you're not okay with these things, which I don't think you should be okay with because it'll never end. And like I just think about being husband and wife. Like, to me, that shit is so serious. That is like no games. That is, you are 100% each other's person. You are family. You do anything and everything for that person. You never disrespect them. And this is disrespectful. The texting is weird. The heart and the thinking of her, disrespectful. No, and no. You break up. Because again, if you've had this conversation in the past and he just downplays it and whatever, clearly this is who he is and he's not changing and he's doing these disrespectful things. Now, if you've never brought this up, you guys have never touched the topic of female friendships or this friendship in specific, I would maybe allow him to see if his actions change after talking about it? Because how is somebody to know? Like, some people genuinely don't know. Again, I'm not justifying behavior. I think it's pretty obvious when somebody's acting out of line or not in a relationship. But like, let's say this girl has never spoken up. I think you say, this to me is disrespectful. And you then, maybe give him some time to see if it changes, if he's done doing that, if he's not speaking to her. But if you've had these conversations, absolutely not. He's not changing. He might for a week and then he'll go back to it because clearly he doesn't give a fuck. Okay, now I'm going to read the update because it's good. I want to provide everyone with an update because a lot has happened. A few days ago, after a lot of tearful soul searching, I decided the best thing for me would be to walk away from the relationship. Yes. Queen. I sat my boyfriend down and talked to him about it. I explained that I always felt like the third wheel in my own relationship and that for my own happiness, I didn't want to be in a relationship that made me feel that way anymore. I gave examples to him that I did in my original posts, such as his lack of boundaries with Nell and his disinterest in standing up for me whenever she mocked me. I also said my trust in him had been eroded to the point where I felt unsure of what I really was to him. I told him I still cared about him and wanted him to be happy, but that I wanted to be happy too. Yes! Okay, this is exactly what I want for all of you, to fucking stand up for yourself and stand on business. Because if you let a man disrespect you again and again and again, he'll do it for the rest of your life. Life is far too fucking short to be with a man who constantly disrespects you. And what is the point of having a partner who does that? Like, why would you actually be with somebody who disrespects you? Hello? My boyfriend sat silently for a while before asking, so you're just jealous of Nell? I don't know if people downplay in their stories, but I would go absolutely insane. Again, levitating. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? What does not get through their thick skull? Men just believe what they want to believe. Like, he just heard all of that, her being open and honest, and all he took from that is you're jealous of Nell, which isn't even the fucking problem. I'm sorry, go to hell. I felt like he barely processed anything I just said. And when I tried clarifying, he got defensive and told me he is allowed to have female friends. I could tell he wanted to turn it into an argument, and since my mind was already made up and I'd said what I wanted, I ended the conversation and he played a computer game and acted like I wasn't there as I packed my things and left. I've been staying with my best friend, who is amazing and always so supportive. We're actually looking into sharing a place officially. I burst into tears on her doorstep and we hugged it out before having a movie night with a pizza and some wine. It felt really therapeutic, like a weight was lifted off of my shoulders. My family has been amazing too, rallying round and taking me out for little meals and stuff. I even got 1 or 2 sweet messages from my BF's friends saying that they were sorry and that they fully understood my point of view, which that's so interesting. She actually said it in parentheses, which is interesting, but like his friends even saw that. Yeah, that's when you know you're in the right. That's when you know. Oh my gosh. Oh, but that's like so sweet. And I wish nothing more than to women to have those types of female friends like that you can go to, which I think most women are that way. Like, if your friend, even not a close friend, came and showed up at your door, like that's just who we are by nature, is like loving and kind individuals. That's fucking crazy. Men are so annoying. The fact that he just sat there and like he already decided the narrative. He already decided, which he knows that he's in the wrong, which is why he got defensive. And I'm not going to blame this man of cheating, but those texts are a little bit, I would lean towards, yes, cheating. Oh my gosh, wait, there's more. I imagined that would be the end of it, but the next morning I woke up to messages from a number I didn't know. It was Nell. I honestly didn't think she'd contact me, so to see walls and walls of text in my inbox was a shock. Let me run down some of the things that she said to me. She repeatedly insisted that she never bullied me and said she had no idea where that came from. She said I always seemed cold towards her, so she tried to make little jokes to break the ice. Openly mocking someone is an interesting method, but I digress. Lastly, she told me I was making things up by suggesting she ever had a thing with my ex. They were just friends. She finished with a passive-aggressive apology that I'd ruined my own relationship by being jealous and listening to voices in my head. Oh, the fact that she even texted you in the first place, the fact that your ex went to her and told her that these are the things that you said, that she bullied you and whatever, which if that's the terminology you used, I don't give a fuck. It's so inappropriate that he went right to her. It just proves everything. It proves that they're way too fucking close. It proves that he's so far up her ass, whether he cheated or not. Shut the fuck up. And the fact that this bitch is his friend doesn't look good on him. You are who you surround yourself with. The fact that she is like coming at you when you just ended your 3-year relationship and you lived with that man, abso-fucking-lutely not. I would lose my mind. Also, why does she feel like she needs to explain herself to you? She feels far too comfortable within the relationship. Like, the fact that she even feels comfortable texting you in the first place shows that she was way too far in your ex's asshole to begin with. Okay, there's only a little bit left. I didn't respond to her venom or try to get the last word. I know she wanted to repeat her tried and true method of hitting out at me and enjoying my reaction, so I didn't give her one. I've been focusing on other things to start building my self-esteem and happiness back. My ex has not tried to contact me since I left, and I'm glad. Frankly, I think him and Nell are perfect for each other. I'm well and truly done with this, and I'm so excited for new things in my life. I love that so much, and it's so nice to hear a woman, like, I always talk to you guys about stories and things of girls going through it, but we never see the other side, and this is exactly what is out there for you. If you're in a relationship that is not good right now and it's scary and you've been together for 3, 4, 5 years, you're married, like, there are options. You have friends, you have family, and if you don't, work your ass off to make the money to then move out or do what you have to do, because I cannot stress enough, like, especially if you want marriage, who you choose as your life partner is not only the biggest decision and most important decision of your life, but like, it can make or break your happiness, which is then like detrimental to everything in your life, your relationship with others, your job, like your life as a whole. When you are with the wrong person, even if it's not like terrible, even if there's no cheating or abuse or like he's a spineless asshole, even if it's just like not good, you guys are just coexisting, that is just as bad. It's keeping you from living to your fullest potential. And that's all I have to say about that. Oh my gosh, you guys, thank you so much for being here. Thank you also for such good feedback on everything. I love this. I love going over all of these. So if you find any stories or you have your own, email me hello@brennaberg.com. Also, if you listen on Spotify or Apple, could you maybe just give a little review? I feel like that would be helpful for the pod, but again, no pressure. You guys are the best. I will see you whenever you listen next. Thank you for being here. Have the best week. Bye, guys.